Welcome everyone to another Wednesday night, the fundamentals to gain inner peace with your hosts, Coach Menachem Bernfeld. We're doing tonight class number 76, and all the recordings are available on menachembernfeld.com. You can find all the recordings there and join us on the journey. Any questions and feedback, you can send to coachmenachem@gmail.com. Hopefully we'll get to answer some of them. So before we start, we want to thank our sponsor, OK Clarity. OK Clarity is a place to find a top-notch therapist, coach, nutritionist. Their professionals are vetted and have extensive experience working with the Jewish community. If you're in the market for a therapist, coach, or the like, or if you are a wellness professional looking to get more online exposure, go check them out, okclarity.com. They also have a WhatsApp status, which you can join and get some healing from there. That the number is 917-426-1495. That's 917-426-1495. So here we are. How are you feeling? How am I feeling? I'm a little bit tired. Just become aware of where we are, where we're coming from, how we feel. Last week we started going through the art of feeling to be able to really understand how we feel, what we feel, where we feel it in our body, what comes up, to become aware of what we're feeling. Tonight we'll continue and to understand a little bit, to become more in tune, to more in touch with your emotions, because it does make a difference in our physical health, the way we feel in our body, whether it's the breathing, blood pressure, or many other things. It makes a difference the way we feel about different things, different emotions. So it's always the first step. Step number one is always to become aware. While talking about emotions, the question can come up, are we what we feel or not? It's something we discussed in the past, but I think we're not going to get into that tonight. It doesn't really, as of tonight's discussion, it doesn't make a difference if we are our emotions or if we are the one that observes and feels the emotions, so we're separate. We could think about that. But for tonight, it's just becoming aware of what we feel and how we feel about it. Then there are those who have that $1,000,000 question, how do I get my spouse to be more in touch? How can I get them to listen to these classes? Okay, maybe we'll talk about it later on. But it is important to understand, no matter what we feel, it makes a difference in our day, makes a difference in our physical body. And for those who are aware of the mind-body connection, Dr. Sarno, how stress, even though you might not think you're stressed, but can get you to have pain, back pain, migraines, or different pain in your body. So it's important to stop and see, where am I? How do I feel? So let's go through the basic feelings. We'll start with some basics. We'll do it a little bit slower because we do want to get in touch and become aware. And hopefully from there, it will help to become aware of other feelings that come up. And not to knock yourself, there are many people who are more in touch, people who are less. And it's okay. There might be a reason why they don't want to be in touch, but whatever it is, just to become aware. And we will start with happiness. When was the last time you felt happy? You can stop for a moment and think, well, I think I feel happy during the day. That's beautiful. Are you aware when you're happy or you don't think about it? That's just another question, another way how to become aware of what I'm feeling. I would love if you would stop for a moment and say, wow, I feel it. What does it feel like? Now, sometimes two people are not the same. Whatever you feel, some people feel different. You might feel it in your head, other people in your heart, other people in their full body, whatever the body feels. But happiness is a feeling of joy. You feel content. You feel like you're in a good place. Things are working out. Something, you're just happy. So when we experience happiness, what happens inside of our body? We release endorphins. It makes us feel good. We have a sense of well-being. We're hopefully not stressed out. Our body is not uptight. It's a happy feeling, positive effects, and that's automatically your body is in a better place. It boosts your mood. It could strengthen your immune system and lower your blood pressure. Now, could you imagine just by having that happy feeling changes the insides, changes who you are, how you feel, and your health? So what are some examples of somebody feeling happy? So you can think of what's made you happy in the past, but talk about a person that's working on a project for a while, for a few weeks, a few months. It's not easy. You're working on it, you're pushing through, and finally it's done. You have a finished product. You look at it and you're like, wow, what does that feel like? And stop for a minute and be aware of it. Become aware of what it feels like in your body. What does your body feel like? How does it feel when I'm happy? Become mindful of that feeling and do yourself a favor. Stop and take it in. Enjoy sitting with it, sitting with that feeling. Many people, they don't give themselves the time to be able to stop and enjoy it. We talk a lot about negative emotions, and I try to get you to not run away from them. It's okay, you can stop, keep on breathing, even though it's negative, feel it. It'll pass, don't run away. But we need to talk about the positive emotions also. When somebody has a positive emotion, spend some time with it, take it in, sit with it. What happens is negative goes deep down, and our whole day could be stressed and worried. But when the positive happens, we're like, oh, Baruch Hashem, for maybe 10 seconds, and then we're on to the next, another worry. But why? Why don't you give yourself that few minutes of feeling Baruch Hashem, feel that positive, say, wow, I'm so glad, and realize, become aware of how you feel. So that's happiness. And then we go to all the way to the other side, sadness. What does it feel like? Somebody feeling sad. You feel down. Sometimes rejection, things didn't work out. It can be a sense of loss, of grief. What happens to the body when we feel sadness? Where do you feel it in your body? You feel heaviness on your chest, a lump in your throat. Might feel like a brick is on your head. Sometimes you're holding back tears. You could be sitting like this, not motivated, just feeling that sadness. And what happens to the energy level? Our energy level goes all the way down. We feel fatigued, and emotional exhaustion. Like it's just like too much. And stop for a moment, become aware of how you feel when you're sad. When was the last time you felt sad? Or maybe you didn't let yourself feel sad. What was it? How did it feel? What does it feel like to you when you feel sad? Talking about examples, if you have a dream and you're hoping it's going to happen and it doesn't happen, a shidduch, you go out for a few dates and it looks optimistic and then it doesn't work out. That could be very hard. Or a bacher going in, into yeshiva, he gets a rejection letter. His friends are accepted and he's not. And then you could have sadness when a loved one passes away, which is really hard. What does it feel like? And talk about for younger kids. Younger kids, when they feel sad, let's try to connect to a younger child who has a toy that they love and they lose it and they want it so badly. They're looking for it and they can't find it. So what do they feel? They feel sad. It's just that feeling, whatever it is for you. Become aware of that feeling, become in touch, and how your body feels. What does your body feel? Sometimes we have a reaction to the emotion that we're experiencing. We get upset that we're sad, or anger. We get upset that we're angry that we're angry. So that's meta emotion, becoming aware of the emotion, and then it brings up a different emotion. So while we're talking about these emotions and being able to be there, always remember, it's okay. Whatever you're feeling, again, it's just a feeling, and it's probably coming from somewhere. Validate, listen, accept, don't try to change it. Become aware. And then become aware of how your body feels. Where do you feel it in your body? Interesting part is that if you can stop and be aware, things become a little bit lighter. Slowly. Versus holding on tight or being really upset. Now we're moving on to anger. So when was the last time you felt angry? I know many of us don't let ourselves feel angry because we're not allowed to be angry. But then we put it away, we suppress it. If we feel angry, then we feel angry. That doesn't mean we're doing something about it, but this is how we feel. What do you feel inside when you feel angry? Feel irritated, frustrated, upset, and every small thing makes you blow up, makes you feel you don't know what to do. You're just not in a good place when you're angry. And what happens inside your body, your heart rate and blood pressure, they increase. Your muscles tighten up, they become tense. Or you might not even be aware, but when you're angry, your face could get red, flushed up. Breathing. What does your breathing look like? It becomes rapid and shallow. Like in and out, fast. Can't take a deep breath. And then you might have that urge of expressing frustration, but either you're not allowed or it's not socially accepted, which could be as possible. You're in a setting where you can't. You would want to scream, you would want to say something, but there are people around and you don't want to act out, which is okay, but be aware of how you feel and what you would want to do if you had that, if you were, that space. What are some examples, if you can think of the last time you felt angry? If you're on the way to a meeting, an important meeting, you're sitting in traffic, and you're gonna be late. And then somebody cuts you off, stops, doesn't let you continue, takes more time. You start feeling something inside. Where do you feel it? What do you feel? Where do you start feeling it? Just be aware of that. At work, if your friends, the people that you work with, they take credit on something that you did, can't believe what you're hearing. It's something that you accomplished. It's the work that you did, and they're taking credit for it. And talk about a little kid, to connect to the young kid, the 5-year-old, when he gets angry. He just in the middle of building his blocks, and his sibling just comes and knocks it down. See how that anger comes up? That's the emotion. Become aware of how you feel. What is that feeling? Where in your body do you feel it? And just by stopping and thinking about this, we're slowly connecting to the emotion, connecting to the body, to how we feel. And there are, like I mentioned last week, there are many beginners with this, and it takes time. Not everybody is aware, in touch. They might feel bad for other people, but not for themselves. To stop and feel what you feel. Some people they never allow themselves to feel, because it might be hard. If you do stop and let yourself feel, you never know what's going to come up. So you might say, I feel bad for that person, I feel bad for this, but myself, I'm okay. But I would say just stop and just sit there. What do you mean you feel bad for them? Well, how do you feel? Where do you feel it when you feel bad for them? Where does it come up in your body when you feel bad for them? That's your emotion. Something that you're feeling. And then slowly you realize you're right. I do feel that. So you do feel. Welcome to the club. We all feel. So slowly you become in touch. Let's move on to fear. When was the last time you felt fear? Maybe fear of the unknown, fear of public speaking. You ever tried? What did it feel like before? Your mouth becomes dry, you start shaking. These are all reactions from our body. And it doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it. It means to say, you can tell yourself, I'm getting ready. I should get ready. Your body is giving you messages, but you're becoming in touch with that feeling. Fear usually brings up that stress response that we talk a lot about, the fight and flight response. The heart rate that quickens, breathing becomes rapid, muscles tense up. You could start feeling sweaty and trembling. And you start focusing on that threat, on that fear. Basically, your body is becoming ready to fight or to flight, whatever it has to do. It's becoming ready. So you feel it in your body. That's the fear. When was the last time you felt it? Maybe you were home alone when there was a thunderstorm. It gets pretty scary. Or late at night, walking outside, not so safe. That area is not so safe. You have another 2 blocks to walk. And then you hear footsteps. Somebody is walking behind you. You just want to get home fast. And you start feeling whatever the feeling comes up. You become aware of that feeling. Now, if you have to get home fast, you don't have to stop and slow down and become in touch. You can get home and then think about it. See what came up, what you felt. But to become in touch of what do you feel when you have that fear? Many times it's just something that's in your mind. It can be anxiety. You're anxious about something which didn't happen. You're just worried that it might happen. How do you feel then when you think about something it might bring that same feeling because in your mind, you see it happening already. Whatever that is, whatever you're facing, in your mind, you're worried about something, in your mind, you're living it. So you might actually feel that way. And talk about a younger child. When does a young child have fear? When they get lost in the store, maybe for a minute or two, and they're looking for their mother. That's very scary. Maybe riding their bike the first time, and they manage to go a few feet by themselves, and then they start wobbling, and they see that, you know, they're going to be on the floor in a second, and before they know it, their father just grabs them and caught them. Like, wow, that feeling of that fear. Sometimes we dismiss it. We're not in touch. But again, become aware of how you feel. When was the last time you felt it? Become aware of it. And one more for tonight. One more feeling. And this is special for a shout out for birthday for my daughter. And it's called surprise. A surprise. What happens when you get surprised? Okay, it might sound positive, and many times it is positive. But you feel, you're like lost for a second. You're taken aback, like something unexpected happens. And you feel it in your body freezes for a second. You're like, in a way, even if it's positive, but that first second till you make sense out of it, your whole body shuts down, like just that feeling. That's a response in your body. Sometimes we need to shake that out because it is a fear. It's like a second of fear. So talk about, you have your friends hiding in the car and it's dark at night, and I tell my daughter, go outside, get something from the car. Opens up the car and 5 girls jump out, happy birthday. Well, that's what happened. That's the initial reaction. I felt bad for my daughter, becoming aware of my own feelings because it was a shock. It's the middle of the night. She wouldn't want to go to the car anyway, anytime. But convinced her to go. Finally, she goes, and then that. So it takes a second, and afterwards, she's like, whoa, it's all positive. It's all amazing. Friends, having a party, which is beautiful. But that first second, become aware of that. What happens in your body. It shuts down. It closes up. That's a surprise. Now, talk about if your teenager is putting away money to buy a laptop. And they walk into their room and there's a box on the bed, nicely wrapped. They open it up, and there is that laptop they worked on for so many weeks. It's a surprise. Now over there, the response is not the same as the story I mentioned before, but it is a surprise. It's like after a second, it's positive, but that first reaction is like a shock. Now it's important to realize that if somebody lives in constant surprise, that's a problem. For somebody who doesn't have, if you live in a situation of uncertainty, every few minutes there's another surprise, like, I don't know, I don't know what's going to be. If it happens too often, that's not healthy. Over time, it can become chronic stress because that initial reaction happens too often. And it can have an effect on your physical health and your mental health. What we need to have a place where you go home, right? A place where you can be relaxed most of the day. Once in a while, there's surprises. But there are people who live in sometimes not in a functional state, and every few minutes is another surprise. And that could bring up a lot of anxiety, a lot of mood disorders. And it's not a place where we want to be, even though surprise could be positive, but not constant surprise. So these are just a few ideas especially for those who are beginners, to start feeling. And you can ask yourself these questions. When was the last time I felt these feelings? These are basic feelings. We all have these feelings. You might say, well, I'm not aware of it, which, okay, slowly start realizing what's going on in your day and be aware of when I feel these way, certain feelings come up, sit there, you can write it down and say, I feel it in my feet, feel it in my stomach. When I'm nervous, I feel it in my throat. Wherever you feel it, let it come up. But remember, the step number one is the awareness. Awareness itself might help just to make some things a little bit lighter. And like we discussed, emotions come and go. If we let ourselves experience them, we let it come and go like the waves. But if we don't experience them, we push them down, suppress them, and then it stays inside of us, hidden, and we hope it doesn't have an effect, but it does. So you want to be able to be aware of, how do I feel? Where do I feel it? Everybody reacts differently. Just become aware of how you feel. And hopefully with that will help us get into this journey of being able to be there for us, for other people, in a healthy way, not to react, because if we're aware, we can become in control. What am I going to do about it? But first, become aware of how you feel, and eventually, what do I want to do about it? What am I going to do about it? So you're in control and not your emotions. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat or raise your hand. Meanwhile, we'll discuss the question that I brought up before. How do I get my spouse? How do I get my spouse to be more in touch? I love these lectures. I love these ideas, and I think I'm in touch, but how do I get my spouse to be? So my first question to you would be, what does that make you feel when you want them to be aware, you want them to be more in touch? Why do you want them to be more in touch? What are you missing? What does it bring up for you? And let's sit with that for a minute, because we're not here to change anybody. We're not here to change anybody. We're here for ourselves. The only person that we can change is the way we feel, we think, and react. So here we are. And become aware of how you feel. And you would love if your spouse would be able to, finish that sentence. Why would you want that? What do you feel when you don't have that? And let yourself feel it. Maybe lonely, maybe upset, feel you can't connect. Maybe there is some anger there also, which you don't feel the anger because you feel more on that low energy. It's been a while like this, but be aware of that. Just being aware. Maybe you could start understanding how you feel. Maybe you'll understand how they feel. They have their things. There might be a reason why they don't want to be in touch. Maybe you can understand that. And you don't want to force them. Once you can understand yourself, you can understand them. And then what do I need to help myself while I'm going through this, while I feel this way? And things will change. Things will get a little lighter. Your reaction will be a little bit different. So automatically there will be a little change, but not because we're changing the person in front of us. We're changing ourselves, the way we feel, the way we think, the way we react. And automatically, if we're in touch with those things, eventually you'll find a little bit more positive energy, positive emotions for yourself. Nothing outside of you is changing. But you can slowly see a difference in your environment. And then whatever happens out there, I don't know, even if it doesn't change, but if you change, things will be different. So I want to thank you all for joining tonight, for showing up, taking some time for yourself. giving yourself that time, the time that you deserve. And again, any questions, any ideas that come up, you're not sure, you can always send me an email, coachmenachem@gmail.com. To listen to the recordings, menachembernfeld.com, you can find the recordings over there. And hopefully, in Mirz Hashem, we'll see you next week, the night before Shavuos. And thank you very much. Have a good night, and I'll see you next week. Enjoy.